Hey besties, welcome back to my channel. My name is AJ. Thank you all so super much for watching my videos and for subscribing to my channel. So in today's video, I'll be sharing with you all simple techniques on how to achieve a flawless finish look. But first thing first, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, like, comment and share. So let's get started. So for every makeup, the first step is to clean the face, right? You don't want to be building your makeup on hitting that. So we have to clean the face to make sure the face is ready to accept the product, right? So after cleaning the face thoroughly using my Adventure Micellar cleansing water, the next thing, the face needs hydration. Now I'm going in with my Moist Essence moisturizer to hydrate and moisturize her skin. We want our makeup to last longer all day. So can you see, as I'm applying my moisturizer, I have my fan. I'm just pointing my fan directly into her face so that it can dry up the moisturizer. So remember, when you are doing your face prep, before going to the next product, after every product, you have to dry it up using your fan, right? So I just make sure I apply generous quantity of the moisturizer around the under eye. I want it to be well hydrated. So moving on, I'm going in with my hydrating primer, which is my Mismetic Aqua Grip Primer. So I'm just going to apply it all over her face. So I'm using my brush, the same brush, to just press in everything. Remember, proper face prep helps the makeup to last longer all day. So as I'm pressing in everything, I have my fan. The same step, I'm just drying up everything. So after that, I go in now with my mattifying primer. So I'm using my V Beauty mattifying primer. Can you see this point where I'm applying it around the area which produces oil? So we want everything, we want a matte finish look. So I'm applying around the side of the nose, the bridge of the nose, the forehead and the chin. Those are the area that produces oil. So I just use my same brush, just pressing everything except the under eye. Then finalize the face prep by locking in everything using my Kiss Beauty setting spray. Now moving on to foundation, I'm going to be mixing 2 shades of foundation to get her exact skin tone. So I'm going to be using the new Avon foundation in the shade 6 and my V Beauty foundation in the shade 8. So I just mix 50% of each of the shades, the various shades, to get exact skin tone. So can you see how I'm blending my foundation? I make sure I use the excess foundation on my beauty sponge to just blend and go around the neck, move towards the ear and blend everything. You don't want one section to be looking darker, the other section to be looking lighter, right? You have to make sure you uniformly distribute everything. And how do I do that? I use my very soft and damp beauty sponge, right? And I'm patting gently into the skin. You push the product into the skin, you don't scrub. So for contour, I still went in with my another darker shade of Avon foundation. So what shade are we using for contour? We are using a shade of foundation or a contour which is 2 shades darker than your skin tone, right? You want that face to have that definition, right? So I use my Avon foundation which is 2 shades darker than her skin. So I just apply underneath the cheekbone. To estimate where the underneath the cheekbone lies, just look at where your ear begins. Try to map. Can you see? Try to map that area. You understand? So you just blend. While blending that, you blend and move towards the temple, right? And blend around the temple. Now use the excess and just make sure you blend the lines separating the 2 shades. So moving on to blush, I'm going to be mixing this orange shade and this red shade from my 3D Girl blush palette. So I'm applying the blush on the cheek. So I'm blending starting from, you apply your blush on the cheek, you blend starting from the apple of the cheek and move towards the temple. You are blending your brush towards the temple. You don't like apply your blush and blend and come downward. You carry it towards the temple, right? And make sure everything is well blended. Now moving on to concealer, I'm going to be using this 2 shade of concealer, my Avon concealer in the shade 40, which is dark lighter, and in the shade 15. So I first of all went in with the Avon concealer in the shade A15. So after that, I'm applying the concealer on the highlighted area. When you say highlighted, it means you want that area to look different, to have a different shade. You want it to be highlighted. So after that, I'm using the clean section of my beauty sponge. Remember, the beauty sponge you are using, you use one section of the beauty sponge to blend the foundation, contour, and blush. Then you reserve another clean section of that same beauty sponge to blend your concealer. That is your highlighter, right? So I just blend starting from the outer corner and move towards the inner corner. And after I'm done blending, I use a clean section of my beauty sponge again to blend the line separating the blush and the concealer, such that there will be no harsh line, there will be no demarcation. So I do the same thing around the forehead. After blending, I just take the clean section, can you see, and pat gently on the line separating the contour and the concealer. So I wanted the highlighted area to be brighter. Now I went in with this Avoc concealer again in the shade 14. Now I first of all use the shade 50. The shade 50 is kind of darker, so I wanted the under eye to be a bit brighter and the bridge of the nose. That's why I went in with this lighter shade, the Avoc concealer in the shade 40, and I just applied just around the inner corner of the eye, right? Just blend and blend. Do the same thing for the bridge of the nose. Blended everything and make sure that the line separating the concealer and the blush, I place the middle of my beauty sponge on that line, such that there will be no demarcation, there will be no obvious. We need to have a smooth transition moving from one shade to the other. Now moving on to nose contour. Most often I usually forget to contour my nose. I don't know why, for cream. So since I remember doing so, I'm using the same shade of foundation. Normally I wasn't supposed to use the same shade I use for contouring the face, because it's kind of looking too dark. So you have to, when you're doing your nose contour, you use a foundation or any contour, a contour stick, which is like one shade darker. The one you're using for the rest of your face, it should be 2 shades darker. The one for your nose is 1 shade darker. Now to lock and seal everything, to mix the makeup, to set the makeup right, I use my Kiss Beauty setting spray. So moving on to setting the highlighted area, I'm going in with my Miracle setting powder in the shade Ginger, right? It's kind of like, it's lighter, so use like a brighter shade of setting powder. So I just can you see what I did when I pick up the setting powder with the same section of my beauty sponge which I used in blending the highlighter? I just gently pat on at the back of my hand to make sure the excess setting powder is taken off because when we are setting, we are using just 1 layer of the setting powder to set the face. It's not like baking where we can use 2 to 3 layers of the setting powder. So each time I pick up the setting powder, I just dust up pat gently at the back of my hand the excess setting powder, then press in. So to make the under eye to be brighter, I went in with this lighter shade of powder for my V Beauty compact powder palette, right? I just press in just around the under eye because I wanted it to be brighter, and blend and move around the outer corner of the eye. So for the rest of the face, I'm going in with my powder for my V Beauty powder palette. As always, I love this powder palette, right? It gives me that finished look. So I'm going in with my powder using with the aid of my big fluffy brush from Vanilla. I just press in everything, all just the blank spaces, right? We are not applying the powder all over. We're applying just around the blank spaces, the area which has not been highlighted. That's including the blush area, the contour area. We're going all over. So after blending everything, now remember we said for makeup everything cream has to go dry. Now I'm going in my powder contour, still for my V Beauty powder palette. Now I'm using the shade which is 2 shades darker than her skin tone, right? I just blend around the under of the cheekbone, move towards the temple, blended everything, go to the next section just like that. Then after, I use my big fluffy brush again to just blend everything and mix everything together and make sure all the harsh line is taken off, there's no demarcation. Then I move on to my nose contour, right? So to contour my nose, I'm using my small fluffy angle brush from Dora angle brush, right? I'm just using now for my powder palette. I use a shade which is 1 shade darker than her skin. I'm not going in with 2 shades, right, one shade. So when I'm done contouring, I'll just use my big fluffy brush again to just blend. Then now to melt down that powder effect, right, to melt down the powder effect and mix the makeup, I use my Kids Beauty Setting Spray again. Then after that, I go in with my fan to dry up everything. Now moving on to baking, I'm using the same Miracle setting powder in the shade Ginger. Now what do? We are using 2 layers of the setting powder. What did I say? I said 2 layers of the setting powder because we want the moisture around the under eye to be absorbed. We want the excess eyeshadow fallout to be easily taken off, right? We need to have a flawless finished look. So while baking, I make sure I leave a generous quantity of the setting powder around the under eye, right? Because we know the under eye is capable of creasing. And I forgot to tell you this. After like setting the face, applying your highlighter, not so. After applying your highlighter, before going in with setting, before going in with setting your setting powder, after applying your spray, you go in again with your beauty sponge, blend around the under eye so well before you set, because the time where you keep the under eye before coming to set, you kind of see something like a line, so you just have to blend again further. So for brows, I started off as always by laying down the hair. We don't want that stubborn hair to be hanging and flying up and down. We want our brows to look so good and the hair to be organized. So we start by laying down the hair using my brows pomade, my brows gel or brows guide from Nikki Signature. I love it because it's not oily, right? So after laying it all down, I go in with my setting powder again. We want to make sure we have a matte finish. We don't want any oil, right? After that, I dust up everything. Then to outline my brows, as always, I use my KRO. That's what I can afford for now. I use my KRO brows gel. I just mix. She said she wanted her brows to look a bit darker, so I mix 50% of a little bit of a dark shade and the brown. So it's a 2-in-1 brows pomade. I use my KL brows pomade, my Issa and those well precise angle brush, right? So I just start producing my outline. I'm not starting right from the beginning. We want that beginning to look as natural as possible, starting from like halfway. So I just estimate. She said she doesn't want her brows to look too big and she doesn't want it to be small, right? So I just outline the bottom, starting with the bottom. When I'm getting towards the end, I just tilt a little bit down. Then for the top, so most often I don't tilt that way. I just outline, I reach somewhere, I wait, then go to the top. When I outline, as I'm getting towards like the turning point, I just tilt a little bit. Like when you're tilting down, right, you don't have to like just come down straight. You kind of like take it slowly as if you want to tilt down, just like slowly, and then they try now to link the other point. So after that, I use the excess gel on my brush, my angle brush, to just like fade out like the outer end of the brows, produce tiny hair-like stroke. So to complete the filling in of the brows, I use my well sharpened and well precise David's pencil in the shade. Remember, she said she wanted her brows to look a little bit darker, so I'm using the shade 003. So I'm producing tiny hair-like stroke. So when producing the stroke around the beginning of the brows, right, make sure you don't touch one spot twice. As you touch this spot, even if it doesn't show, leave it, don't go there again, right? It's going to show. So make sure you don't touch one spot twice. Make sure your hairline, your hair-like strokes are not like too close to each other, because when they're kind of close, it makes the brow look like it doesn't have that natural effect. You get it? So I'm sorry that I'm a little bit fast. For concealing of the brows, right, I'm using my lighter shade of concealer. That's my Adventure concealer in the shade 40. I use that's for the starting from the middle to the end. Then for the beginning of the brows, I use my darker shade of foundation, the one I use in contouring, right? So after concealing, I use the tips of my Issa and those angle brush to just conceal. Then remember we said for brows, for makeup, everything cream has to go dry. I go in with my powder, exact shade of powder for each of the section. Meaning the section in which I use a lighter shade of concealer, I go in with the lighter shade of powder. The section which I use a darker shade of concealer, I go with the darker shade of powder. I do the same thing for the upper section. So to conceal the upper section, I actually use the same shade I used in concealing the beginning, right? We don't want any harsh line like concealer line on the upper section of the brows. We want it to look very natural. So moving on to eyeshadow, I always start by placing For every eyeshadow, always start by placing your eyeshadow base. That is what is going to hold the eyeshadow, right? You cannot be placing your eyeshadow, start building your eyeshadow on naked eyes. There must be a base, right? Place my eyeshadow base, which I use my Adventure, the lighter shade of my Adventure concealer. So after applying it, I use my fluffy brush to just blend in everything. So moving on to eyeshadow, I use my Naked V Beauty eyeshadow palette. I love this eyeshadow palette. It's kind of pigmented and it's soft, kind of soft, like, right? You don't need to like touch too much. So I just start by blending from the outer corner with that shade, with the shade I just picked. Blend from the outer corner. As I'm moving, I just blend and move slightly towards the inner corner, just like so. Sorry, I'm fast. So I just blend, move towards the inner corner. Then I go in now with this dark shade, still from my Naked V Beauty eyeshadow palette. So for my main color, I'm going in with this nude shade. I don't know the name of the color. I go with this nude shade from my Naked V Beauty eyeshadow palette. I just apply around the area which I left, right? I use the same brush I use in the darker for the darker shade to just smooth out around the outer, the edges of the main color. We don't want any harsh line, right? Yeah. And please, if you haven't subscribed, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like, comment, share. Let me know about your opinion and let me know if you try this out and tell me about the outcome. So to line her eyes, I'm using my brows pomade again, the K Arrow. How do they even pronounce this thing? Is it karate or I don't know? I just call it K Arrow brows pomade. So after lining the upper section for the waterline, I just use my powder puff, pull her eyes gently downward. Then use my angle brush from Isa and those to line the waterline. All right. So after that, I use my mascara to first of all brush the lashes to take off the eyeshadow fallout before going in with my eyelashes. So guys, don't blame me about these eyelashes, right? I first of all put her lashes like this. She said she doesn't want it that way. She wants her lashes to be in the middle and she doesn't want it to be directly on her natural lashes. So she never wanted it to be directly on the natural lashes, like all the lash line. She just wanted it to be, she said her eyes are quite teary, so let me just do it like that. So I use my brown shade from my Beauty Naked eyeshadow palette to just smooth out the under eye, right? Yeah, just like so. So I use my small fan brush to dust off the eyeshadow fallout. So I just use my big brush to blend. Then moving on to lips, I start by outlining her lips using my K Arrow brown brows pomade and my Isa and those angle brush. So I just go, her lips are kind of, she said she wanted her lips to be full, so I just like went a little bit further above her lip line to like outline the lips. So after that, after doing so for the upper section, I use my small fluffy brush to like blend the edges, right? We don't want harsh line, so we have to always make sure we blend the edges for us to have a smooth transition. So after when I was done with that, I went in with the lower lips, outlined the lower lips. I kind of used my hand to like push it so that I could see the underline. So after that again, I still went in with my fluffy brush, small fluffy brush, to blend the edges. When I say blend the edges, what do I mean? Like I placed my brush on the line separating the two shades. So moving on to my main color, I went in with this nude shade. She said she wanted a nude lips. I went in with this like not too like, it should not be too bold, right? I went in with this nude shade from Avor Lip Stain. Yeah, the new Avor Lip Stain. So I still use my small fluffy brush to smooth out the edges, blend the lines separating the main lip color and the darker shade. Then now, when I was done with that, I went again with this purple shade. Like I wanted the lips to pop out a little bit to just further outline the edges of the lip. So can you see what I'm doing? I'm using the tips of my angle brush to do so. And when I was done with that, I went in now with my small fluffy brush. We don't want to leave it looking messy like that, right? So I just use my small fluffy brush to just smooth out, blend it, yeah, right? Yeah. So this is how you do it, just like the way I do mine. Yeah. So when I was done with the upper section, I go in now with the bottom. Now I'm lining the bottom. I'm not doing like everything, right? I just end somewhere there. Then I use my same fluffy brush again, small fluffy brush, just blend, blend and blend. Now, when I was done with the lips, I now go in with blending. I use my big fluffy brush to start blending my excess powder, which I use for reverse contour and baking. Did I talk about the point where I apply my blush? Yeah, I apply my powder blush from my exclusive blush palette. So for the setting powder around the under eye, I first of all started off by dusting off the excess eyeshadow fallout. Then I now start blending I'm not blending, like I'm pressing in the setting powder, starting from the outer corner of the eye, and I'm moving towards the inner corner. So when I was done blending, I just sealed everything. No, not sealing. I set everything using my Kiss Beauty setting spray. Then I use my fan to dry it up. So at this point, I was just trying to like blend the lip, since I went in with the nude Adventure lip gloss. So after doing so, I just apply some glue around the forehead. Then I use my Blossom makeup highlighter palette to just apply some glue around the cheek. So I'm placing my glue specifically on the line separating the highlighter and the blush, right? So after that, I place a little bit on the bridge of the nose. I wanted to have that, like that glowing effect, right? So at this point, my client was in a hurry. Her photographer was already calling her that we should, like, I started working with speed at a certain point because my client's photographer already called her and reminded her about her time. She was already extremely late, so I had to just work with speed. So after that, moving on, I apply my clear lip gloss on her lips, right? So after doing so again, sorry for using so to lock and seal the makeup. She never even let me brush her lower lashes with my mascara. To lock and seal the makeup, I use my all-nighter lock-in spray. Can you see? So we even started the makeup with one transition, but we could not finish because she was already extremely late for her photo shoot. So this is a finished look. Can you see my client? See how she was just blushing? Yeah, go girl, go girl. Okay guys, thank you so super much for watching, and please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe and share. Bye guys. Mwah.